Before this story begins, take a second and subscribe to the channel. Not because this story is easy to hear, but because some stories stay with you long after the screen goes dark. If you've ever felt something you weren't supposed to feel, if you've ever stood on the edge of a line you promised yourself you'd never cross, then this story is for you. Some stories don't begin with love. They begin with control, with pauses that last a second too long, with words carefully chosen, and others buried deep, with emotions that grow quietly, where no one can see them, until one day they are impossible to ignore. This is one of those stories. I never planned to fall for her. I didn't even allow myself to imagine it, because from the very beginning, she was forbidden. Not just unavailable, but untouchable in every way that mattered. She belonged to a life already built, a marriage already written, a future that did not include me. And I was supposed to be nothing more than a background character in her world. A neighbor she waved to, a familiar face, a safe distance. But desire doesn't respect boundaries. And restraint, no matter how strong, always has a breaking point. Her name was Isa. She lived 2 houses down from mine, in a home that looked almost unreal in its perfection. Fresh paint that never seemed to fade, warm lights glowing behind clean windows. A small garden that bloomed even when the weather turned harsh. From the outside, it looked like a life that needed nothing. Her husband, Daniel, traveled often for work. When he was home, his car filled the driveway like a quiet warning. A reminder. A line clearly drawn. She was taken. She was committed. She was not mine. And yet, whenever he left, something changed. There was a stillness around her house. A silence that felt heavier than it should have. And somehow, without understanding why, I felt it too that we had exchanged polite words before. Nothing more than casual greetings. But the first real conversation happened on an ordinary evening that felt anything but ordinary. I was sitting on my porch, the day finally cooling down, when I saw her walking past. Barefoot. Holding a mug with both hands, steam rising into the night air. She smiled as she passed. Then slowed. Then stopped. "Long day?" she asked. Her voice was gentle, but tired. The kind of tired that doesn't come from work, but from carrying too much alone. "Every day," I replied. She laughed softly. It wasn't loud. It wasn't dramatic. But something about it settled deep in my chest, like it had always belonged there. We talked for maybe 10 minutes. Nothing important. Nothing dangerous. And yet, when she finally walked away, it felt like something had quietly shifted. Because the conversation ended, but the feeling didn't. After that, we spoke more often. On sidewalks. Over fences. In moments that seemed accidental, but never truly were. We talked about books we loved. About choices we regretted. About that strange kind of loneliness that exists even when you're not alone. She never spoke badly about her husband. And somehow, that made everything worse. Because it meant this wasn't about escape. It wasn't about anger or resentment. It was about something missing. I started noticing small things. The way her smile faded when her phone lit up with Daniel's name. The way she lingered when our conversations should have ended. The way her eyes searched mine. Like she was looking for permission she didn't want to ask for. And I noticed myself changing too. Thinking about her late at night. Replaying the sound of her laughter in my head. Wondering what it would feel like to touch her hand. Just once. I told myself it was harmless. I was wrong. The tension didn't arrive suddenly. It built slowly, quietly, like heat trapped beneath the skin. Every look carried more meaning than it should. Every silence felt louder than words. We both knew something was happening. And we both pretended it wasn't. Until the night everything broke. The storm came without warning. Thunder split the sky open. Rain crashed down with a force that felt almost intentional, like the world itself was pushing something forward. I was inside when the doorbell rang. When I opened the door, Isa stood there. Soaked. Breathless. Eyes wide with something between fear and relief. "My power's out," she said quietly. I didn't know where else to go. I stepped aside. That was my first mistake. She stood in my living room. Rain pooling on the floor beneath her. Her dress clung to her from the storm, and I looked away, too aware of what noticing would mean. "I'll get you a towel," I said quickly. When I handed it to her, our fingers brushed. Just barely. But the air changed instantly. She looked up at me. Really looked at me. And in her eyes I saw it. The same thing I felt. Want. Fear. Something dangerous and undeniable. We shouldn't, she whispered. I know, I said. But neither of us moved. Outside the thunder roared. Inside, all I could hear was my own heartbeat. Fast. Loud. Unforgiving. She stepped closer. So why, she asked softly. Does it already feel like I'm doing something wrong? I didn't answer. Because the truth was, we already were. When I touched her, it wasn't sudden. It was careful. Hesitant. As if I was afraid she might disappear if I moved too fast. My hand brushed her arm. She inhaled sharply. That sound broke something inside me. The kiss followed, slow at first. Uncertain. Then heavy with everything we had been holding back. It tasted like restraint finally giving in. She pulled away first. Tears filled her eyes. This changes everything, she said. I know, I replied. And still neither of us stopped. That night unfolded like a secret neither of us would ever forget. Every moment felt stolen. Every breath felt borrowed. And somewhere between the storm outside and the silence inside, I realized this wasn't just desire. It was emotional. It was deep. It was everything we had both been denying. And nothing, absolutely nothing, would ever be the same again.